Welcome to Pep Talk and Pickleball, the podcast where we explore empty nest life, health, fitness, and nutrition, all with a side of pickleball fun. I'm your host, Jill Lewis, your guide through this exciting phase of life. As a certified faster way to fat loss coach and fellow empty nester, I'm here to share insights, interview experts, and yes, sprinkle in some pickleball talk. Join me for weekly doses of motivation and laughter as we navigate health, happiness, and pickleball passion. Grab your paddle, join the conversation, and let's dive into Pep Talk and Pickleball. Welcome back to Pep Talk and Pickleball. I'm Jill Lewis, your host, and today I'm going to be talking with you all about what is the deal with ultra-processed foods. Why do we keep hearing about processed foods? Why is it bad for us? What should we be eating instead? And does it really matter that much? So I am going to dive right into this conversation. And for those pickleball fans out there, don't you worry. We will continue to talk all about pickleball. But in order to be an active aging adult, we have got to be nourishing our body with the right amounts of food. And of course, the quality of the food also matters. And that's what I want to talk today about is the quality of our food. You know, growing up, we were in an age where we had a ton of convenience foods that were coming out and were offered to us. And for better or for worse, that's just kind of the way our lifestyles became, was eating either fast food or convenience foods, which ultimately are ultra processed. And it has a significant role in our health. And so I want to kind of dive into it. So ultra processed foods are food products that have undergone extensive processing, and they contain, multiple additives, preservatives, flavorings, and other artificial substances. So these foods are typically highly palatable. So they taste really good. They're super convenient and they have an incredibly long shelf life. An example or examples of ultra processed foods would be sugary drinks, packaged snacks, instant noodles, ready to eat meals, and many fast food items. Okay, so a processed food is really just simply one that's been altered from its original state. Now, not all processed foods are necessarily bad. And I always hate talking about food if it's good or it's a good food or a bad food. But there's varying levels of processing. So I like to say ultra processed food versus regular processed food. So we have regular processed foods. And according to Harvard, you might have heard of Harvard, right? But according to Harvard, processing changes a food from its natural state. Processed foods are essentially made by adding salt, oil, sugar, or other substances. And examples could be like canned fish. So maybe you've got fresh tuna and then you've got canned tuna, right? Or maybe you have a corn on the cob or you have canned corn. You could have fruits that are in syrups, or you could have freshly made breads. But most processed foods have just 2 or 3 ingredients. But then we have the ultra processed foods or highly processed foods, and they most likely have added ingredients such as the sugar, the salt, the fat, the artificial colors, the flavors, emulsifiers, stabilizers, or preservatives. And ultra processed foods are made mostly from substances that are extracted from foods such as fats, starches, the added sugars, hydrogenated fats. So an example of these foods are frozen meals, soft drinks, hot dogs, cold cuts, fast food, packaged cookies, cakes, and salty snacks. I know. All the things. Now, according to a study published by the BMJ, ultra-processed foods are the main source, nearly 58% of the calories that are eaten in the US. And they contribute to almost 90% of the energy that we get from added sugars. So it's a huge part of our diet, the standard American diet, which I call SAD, Standard American Diet, SAD, SAD, okay? Ultra-processed foods typically have 5 or more ingredients, and these foods generally have a long shelf life. Now, MD Anderson's wellness dietitian, Lindsay Wolford, answered the question of like, what are ultra processed foods? So I'm going to give like more examples of what I'm talking about. But she said they're packaged foods that have been made by food companies using many manufactured ingredients rather than actual foods. So those foods are combined in some way to make something that is edible, but in no way maintains the integrity or nutritional content of the original food. Ultra processed foods are things like hot or cold packaged snacks. So we talked about this already. The prepackaged meals, the sweets and the sodas. They generally have long lists of ingredients, many of which you don't know how to pronounce or recognize. There's substances for bulking, defoaming, emulsifying, and bleaching. So ultra processed foods contain added oils, fats, starches, protein substances, enzymes, flavorings, preservatives, again, lots of salt and sugar. But many of these ingredients, if you saw them on your own, they don't resemble any kind of food. And they're just there to create the texture and the flavors that make it taste really good, makes it highly palatable. That's such a hard word to say. So let's kind of talk a little bit more about specifically the regular, like what I call whole food versus processed versus ultra processed, right? So the home version, say with oatmeal, would be oatmeal that is just rolled oats that are sweetened with honey. And then a processed version of that could be like plain bran cereal, okay? Now an ultra processed version of that could be sweetened breakfast cereals, okay? You know which ones I'm talking about. Or maybe a processed version or an ultra processed version. It depends. You could look at the oatmeal that is the microwavable kind. There's some that are just processed. Has a couple extra ingredients in there. But then there's some that are ultra processed because they have so many different flavorings and they have so many different added sugars and all of that. So another example. Okay, let's go with an ultra processed food or a beverage rather, would be soda. Okay, I think we can all agree that's ultra processed. Then you've got the processed version of that would be artificially flavored sparkling water. Okay, it's processed. Then you have the home version, which would be carbonated water with a splash of fruit juice or fruit slices, something like that. Let's keep going. Another example would be ultra processed, would be the flavored potato chips. A processed chip might be just a plain tortilla chip. Then you have the home version, which would be the pita chips, like a DIY pita chip that you cut and bake yourself and sprinkle with some sea salt. You have an ultra processed version of bread with white bread, right? The white bread that maybe you had your sandwiches on when you were a kid, in the lunches that you took to school. A processed version, so kind of the middle ground there, would be whole wheat bread with minimal ingredients. So take some being a detective to look at what's the ingredient list. And then the at-home version, of course, is the homemade. You may be sourdough bread, whole wheat bread, but that would be your, whole food. You've got another thing here. Okay, let's talk about fried chicken. Fried chicken, that would be the ultra processed version. You've got the regular processed version, might be the deli rotisserie chicken. And then you have the at-home version, which would be roasting chicken yourself in the oven. Okay. So you kind of get what I'm talking about. Again, could be with sweets, the home version, the simplified whole food would be just a square of dark chocolate. Or maybe you get a simple processed version would be a simple candy bar with a short ingredient list. And then the ultra processed, of course, is going to be the flavored candy bar with a long ingredient list. What about coffee? Beverages really count. We can't not count beverages when it comes to ultra processed. And, we get a lot of calories from beverages in this country. So your basic version, obviously your best choice, so to speak, would be drip coffee. Then you've got store-bought cold brew would be your, as an example of a processed. And then your ultra processed, of course, is going to be the frozen blended coffee drink. And it's hard for me to not do a little bit of judgment when I see people getting those on the daily. I mean, I can't imagine a worse thing to consume. For real. Okay. So, this is kind of, I could keep going on and on and on. Energy drinks, ultra processed. What would be the home version? Maybe just like some freshly squeezed orange juice. You could do a snack like DIY version granola. And then the ultra processed version is going to be the flavored granola bars with added sugar and preservatives. All right. So there's all different kinds. So many different versions of, quote, food. And what I consider food is simple ingredients and does not, like, to me, ultra processed food, I always say food in quotations because it's really not food as it should be. What should be normal to us is whole food nutrition, food in its most natural state, food that, what I always say, was it grown in the ground or did it have a mother? Those are the things to me that explain very simply if this is an ultra processed food or is this just good old fashioned whole food nutrition, the kind of stuff we put into our body that our body knows how to digest and isn't going to cause inflammation and problems. So I think it's really important. There's several reasons why ultra processed foods are considered detrimental to health. So one is going to be the nutritional composition. So ultra processed foods often contain high levels of the added sugars, the unhealthy fats, and sodium. They tend to be low in essential nutrients like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So low and in any kind of like void of nutritional value. And when I'm eating something, I want to know, does it have any nutritional value? Is this food helping me or is this food hurting me? I say food in quotes. So, because that's the thing, food is medicine and it can harm you or it can help you. So when you start looking at food that way, and ask yourself when you look at the food that you're getting ready to eat, it does kind of make you look at things differently. All right, ultra processed food. What's another negative about it is that it's really calorie dense. Many ultra processed foods are they're rich in calories. And then, like we just learned, but they're poor in nutrients, right? Meaning that they provide just a super high number of calories relative to their nutritional content. So this contributes to overeating and weight gain, as these foods do not promote feelings of fullness or satiety. Think about eating potato chips. How hard is that to eat one serving of potato chips? It's very difficult, right? It's because it does not have any nutritional value. It's very, very high in calories. It's highly palatable, right? There's also an impact on metabolism. Consuming a diet that is high in ultra processed foods has been linked to metabolic disorders such as obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. The excessive intake of the added sugars and the unhealthy fats can lead to insulin resistance, elevated blood sugar levels, and just an abnormal lipid levels. So this is a lot of negative stuff happening. And I'm going to tell you, it catches up with you. You often think when you're a child, and maybe you were active when you were a child and you had a metabolism like a queen, and it was working really well for you. And as you age, you just can't get by with that kind of eating. It does catch up to you. I always love the book by Dr. Stephen Cabral, and he talks about the rain barrel effect. And the rain barrel effect is throughout your life, you are whatever toxins you are encountering, poor lifestyle choices. It could be a number of things that are detrimental to your health, but you just start filling the rain barrel with all of those different types of exposures. Could be alcohol, excessive sugar, excessive salt, lack of movement, but just all these lifestyle factors. Okay. So they start filling this rain barrel. Well, as you get older, that rain barrel is getting fuller. It's getting fuller. Eventually it's going to overflow. And when it overflows, Well, that inflammation that you've been putting into your body is going to catch up with you. And it could do that in a number of different ways. So could be really affecting your metabolism. So could be what's contributing to added weight gain. So let's talk about one other thing here, displacement of healthier foods. So regular consumption of ultra processed foods may just displace healthier whole foods from the diet, leading to deficiencies in essential nutrients and antioxidants. So this has long-term consequences, like I was just talking about. So you may not think it's a big deal, but ultimately it's going to come back to haunt you. So let's think of this as an example of maybe you're somebody that just grabs a protein bar for lunch. I used to be that person. It was very easy. I knew in my mind it was 200 calories. And I was like, okay. But instead, I should have been eating, some type of whole food, something. Maybe it was leftovers from dinner the night before. Maybe I've had some, like a bowl of berries or something, like something that is really giving me some nutritional value, not fake ultra processed foods. You know what I mean? So whether it's a snack or your lunch, you want the bulk of it, the majority of it, to be whole food nutrition. So the other thing is that ultra processed foods they contain addictive properties. So they are formulated to be, like I said, so tasty and addictive, which leads to the overconsumption and then the cravings, including, ingredients like sugar and salt. These certain additives can stimulate the reward pathways in the brain, which promote compulsive eating behaviors. If you are somebody that you feel like you tend to, binge on certain foods, that you can't stop craving certain foods, it's because you have become addicted to those additives that are in this ultra processed food. So you have to start looking at your foods like, is this helping me? Is this harming me? And kind of change the mindset around that. And then let's talk about gut health. Some studies are suggesting that a diet in ultra processed foods may negatively impact your gut composition, okay, which leads to dysbiosis, an imbalance of the gut bacteria. And this imbalance has been associated with various health problems, including inflammation and immune dysfunction. So, not good. Overall, while ultra processed foods may be convenient and they might be enjoyable, they should be consumed in moderation at most, okay? As part of a balanced diet that prioritizes whole, minimally processed foods like fruits, veggies, whole grains, proteins, lean proteins, and healthy fats. So what are those? What should we be replacing the ultra processed with? These non-processed food with that I call whole food nutrition. And that simply means food in its most natural state. Was this grown in the ground? Did this have a mother? If you're looking at your plate, if you're looking at your snack and you're like, I actually don't know, then, that kind of tells you, right? Let's talk about fruits and vegetables. Fresh fruit and veggies are, in their whole unprocessed form, they're excellent examples of non-processed foods. An apple, a banana, oranges, spinach, broccoli, carrots, bell peppers, like all those things, whole food nutrition. I do not want to hear one person out there tell me that, they're nervous to eat bananas because bananas make you fat. No. I've coached like thousands of clients. I've never seen a woman come to me because she overconsumed bananas or some other fruit and got fat. It boggles my mind that is out there in the universe, and that, that these types of carbohydrates are bad for us. I mean, people become obese because they're eating too much ultra processed foods and they're over consuming. It's, so many calories and they're not moving their bodies. So let's be frank, a banana, like what is in the banana, the vitamins and the minerals in a banana versus like eating what, what's the alternative there? Some type of ultra processed bar. We can't get sucked into that belief system. So don't be afraid to eat your vegetables and your fruits if they have carbohydrates. Okay. So of course, everything in moderation, right? But whole grains, that's another one to talk about. Whole grains are grains that retain all parts of the kernel, including the bran, germ, and the endosperm. Examples include whole wheat, rice, white, brown, I don't care, for me, like brown rice is harder to digest. So I eat white rice and I think I'm doing pretty well. But oats, quinoa, barley, legumes. Legumes are a plant-based food that include beans, lentils, chickpeas, peas, and these foods are rich in protein, fibers, and a lot of nutrients as well. You've got nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds are nutrient-dense food that provide healthy fats, protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals. So it could be almonds, walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. Like there's all different kinds, hemp seeds. So many different ones. Now, nuts and seeds are super nutrient dense, but they are also a more calorie dense. So of course, everything I'm talking to you about today, you still have to be mindful of portion size. There's no getting around that, right? That's also important. But we want to be talking about the quality of the food today. So lean proteins. Lean protein to me is like numero uno. You want to be eating really just great sources of protein. I am a meat eater, so I do chicken, fish, shellfish, eggs. I do beef. I do pork. I do all of them, pork tenderloin, pork chops. Like I love it. It's a part of my diet. It makes me feel good. It helps me grow and protect lean muscle tissue. I'm always working on, as a 50-year-old female, I want to not only protect, but I still want to build some muscle so that as I age, I don't get old, right? When you get old and you lose independence is when you can no longer pick yourself up and down off the floor, up and down off the toilet, in and out of the car, in and out of a lounge chair, all those things. I want to be able to, get on the floor and play with grandkids at some point in my life. I always want to be able to go hiking. I want to be able to travel the world. There's a lot of things. I want to play pickleball. I want to play golf. I want to be a very active person. And that takes protecting your muscle on your body like it's your job. Also, let's be frank, muscle on your body looks better. You want to look better in your clothes. You want to look better naked. You want to be strength training. Okay. So dairy is another one, dairy products in their natural state. That's really the caveat there, such as like plain yogurt, certain milks, but you got to be not the ultra processed kind, certain cheeses. For me, I try to just do like feta, goat cheese, and very occasionally I add like Parmesan cheese, like sparingly. But I try to get quality sources when I do have dairy. You can find some good ones out there. Okay. Same thing with like butter. I mean, I buy the Kerry Gold butter because I know that's a better quality source. So, keep that in mind. And then herbs and spices, herbs and spices such as like, basil and cilantro and cinnamon and turmeric. They're natural flavorings that enhance the taste of meals without adding processed ingredients. And you can find so many good herbs, fresh or dried, out there. I absolutely adore, like, one of my favorite things about going into a Trader Joe's is their spice aisle. They have so many interesting, amazing spices and mixtures. I love the Green Goddess one. I sprinkle that on my salads. I sprinkle that on my roasted vegetables. They've got a great salmon rub. They have they're everything but the bagel is top notch. Their chili lime seasoning is delicious. Their sriracha seasoning is amazing. I like a kick to my food. They have so many. They've got barbecue ones. They really are best in class, in my opinion, on the seasonings. So non-processed foods, they're typically found in the perimeter of the grocery store. I'm sure you've heard that before. You should shop the perimeter of the grocery store first, where the fresh food is, okay, before you go in through the middle aisles of the grocery store. So, I call the non-processed foods whole food nutrition, but you may hear it just being referred to as clean eating. That could just be, like I said, clean eating, whole food nutrition. Remember, eating foods in its most natural state, free of additives, preservatives, environmentally friendly, haven't been sprayed with glyphosate, right? That's a whole other topic. So, how can we incorporate this into our life? Well, it takes a little bit of planning. And that's just something that like we got to put our big girl pants on and do, right? We have to be a little bit better at planning. When we wait till the last minute, guess what? We order pizza. Well, it's an ultra processed food. Okay. We're going to grab fast food. That's an ultra processed food. Is this stuff helping you or is it hurting you long term? That's the question to ask. So it's worth your while. It's worth your health for your families, for you and your spouse, for whoever you're around. I mean, be a leader, lead by example, and you have to do a little bit of planning. So what does that look like for me? Well, that looks like for me on a Saturday or Sunday, I kind of just take 5 minutes out of my day, think about the schedule, look at the calendar, what's coming up this week. Do we have dinner dates that we're going on? Do we have any type of events that we're going to be going out to dinner? Then look at the other days and say to myself, okay, we're home these nights. And so I just pick what I want to fix. And then, or I might ask my husband, like, hey, what sounds good this week? And, he may be like, you know what, I really want to grill pork chops this week. Or he may have like, I really want spaghetti. We haven't had spaghetti in a long time. And I'm like, all right. So I can kind of plan ahead to figure that out. And you might be saying to yourself, spaghetti, Jill, is spaghetti noodles, that's ultra processed, right? Well, it depends. Is it ultra processed? That would be your typical spaghetti noodles in the grocery store. Is it just processed? Maybe it is, the pasta that's like made from chickpeas and you look at the ingredients on there. What's the ingredient list? Is it 2, 3 ingredients? It's probably just a normal processing, nothing to worry about. Is it ultra processed where it's got words you can't pronounce, 5 more ingredients? Or is it going to be a good whole food choice like spaghetti squash, which is what I love? So, think of it that way. And then same thing with their spaghetti sauce. There's different versions. Look at the ones that have all the added sugar. The main brands have so much added sugar in there. It's so irritating to me. So I get the Rao's sauce and I freaking love that one. It's very simple ingredients, or you make your own. Okay. So, but you got to plan ahead. So plan your meals for the week, and that's going to include snacks. And you want to make more at dinner time so that you have those leftovers for lunch the next day, right? Leftovers for lunch saves my life. That is how I'm able to eat whole food nutrition at all of my meals, because I use the power of leftovers for my lunch the next day. Plus, like if you're, one of my clients, if you're tracking your food, you're keeping like a food log, you're tracking your macronutrients, leftovers make life so much easier because you already have the macros, you just carry it over. You already know what that is made of, like how much protein, carbs, and fats. So it just makes your life so much easier in so many different ways. So doing that takes a little bit of planning. You can use the power of your crock pot. You can use your slow cooker. You could use your air fryer. You can use your oven. You can use your grill. You can pre-cook some food. I'm not great at meal prep, but I am good at having a loose plan for the week so that I have the ingredients in my house. That is absolutely key for me. We talked about shopping the perimeter of the store. We have kind of talked a little bit about how you have to be a detective, reading the labels. My gosh, what an education when you start reading labels on the foods. Read them carefully. If you have time and you're in the grocery store, look at peanut butter for an example. That's another one. Like I can buy whole food, best in class from my nutrition store back in Marion, Illinois, at Good Life Nutrition. Rob makes the, homemade almond butter or peanut butter right there in the machine. Literally I've done it with him. It's like almonds in the machine and it does its magic and it comes straight out as almond butter. Has to be, stay refrigerated. That is best in class whole food. Then I go to the grocery store and I can look up the, ones that are in there and maybe they're organic, maybe they're not, what's been added, what hasn't. And then you've got your processed ones, the ones that have added palm oil or they have added sugar to it. So look at the labels. Okay. So important. I remember looking at the labels and realizing that some brands of pickles had sugar added to them. I'm like, what? I didn't know. Why would I do that? Like, I'm not going to like add sugar into my day from a stupid pickle, you know? What else? We talked about prioritizing fruits and vegetables, all the colors. It's just great to have that stuff on hand. If budget is a concern, I'm telling you, Aldi and Trader Joe are fantastic places to shop. You know, I can't say enough good things about their selections that they have there. But if that is still something that is with, you know, not really in your budget all the time, then you can buy the frozen ones. You know, I definitely use like frozen berries. Is it processed? Yeah, but it's not an ultra processed, right? You just want to make sure you're getting it just the berries, like it's been frozen, obviously. So a little bit of processing happened there, but it's not added sugars to it. So you want to make sure that that's what you're getting. And I use like frozen strawberries, frozen raspberries, all that. I use that, or blueberries in my smoothies, which I love. Okay. We talked about the protein, how important your snacks. Gosh, you got to think about like what snacks are going to be really good for you. That could be fresh fruit, raw veggies with hummus. Hummus is, you know, slightly processed, but it's just chickpeas mashed up, you know? So you want to look at the ingredient list there. Nuts, seeds, plain yogurt with berries instead of, you know, processed snack bars, chips, or cookies. You want to hydrate with water. Gosh, water's so easy to just hydrate with water. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, water just doesn't taste good. That's because your brain has been tricked by these ultra processed foods. You know, so much sugar has altered your taste buds. And we got to work on taking control of the taste buds back, right? So start small, you know, build yourself up in the morning. Like I've said this so many times, make it a reward system. You start with 8 ounces of water before you allow yourself that first cup of coffee or that first diet soda or whatever it is that you're drinking. Make it a reward system, bump that up to 12 ounces after a couple of weeks, bump it up to 20 ounces. I mean, you can do this. Another little trick I have if you have a sweet tooth, A, is that you need more protein in your life, but B, try a nice clean electrolyte. I particularly like the LMNT brand. I don't have any affiliation with them. It's just what I can see out there, best in class when it comes to the composition of what's in there, what's it sweetened with, all of that doesn't have sugar. So you want to make sure that you're choosing one that doesn't have a bunch of junk in it. So be careful, but look at the ingredient levels. But LMNT, you can order that online. I like the grapefruit or the citrus salt. So grapefruit salt or citrus salt, it is very strong. For me, I fill up one entire Stanley 40 ounces of water with one packet of that. That's how strong it is. But man, in the summer, nothing tastes better when you're sweaty, you're out playing pickleball, and you drink some of that. It is so refreshing and it replenishes your electrolytes, and it does help decrease the cravings of sugar. So don't always blame salt for what sugar did. Okay. Let's keep going here. So you want to snack smart, and you know, that could just be plain popcorn for goodness sakes, you know? Okay. Limiting dining out and fast food. I feel like this is very self-explanatory, but Randy and I love to dine out. Going out to dinner is a blast. We have to reel it in sometimes though, because when you dine out, you're getting a lot of oil that you are not getting at home, right? You don't like the cuts of meat, the kind of processing that they're doing. You really don't know. But for sure, when I go out to dinner, I'm always going to add at least a tablespoon of oil to my food log that day. Okay. So keep that in mind. If you are someone tracking your food and you go out to eat, might as well just tag on another tablespoon of oil or a tablespoon of butter at least, because that's why it tastes so good. Fast food, I can't even go there. You know, fast food on occasion, of course, you know, we all are busy, we travel and whatever. And I certainly enjoy certain things about Chick-fil-A or other places, but this cannot be a staple in our diet. So practice mindful eating is just a real big one here. I want you to pay attention to your hunger and your fullness cues. We've forgotten how to do that. You know, eat slower. Put your fork down in between bites. Chew your food. Savor the flavors and the textures of your food. Mindful eating can really help you make healthier choices and prevent you from overeating on ultra processed foods. Sit down when you're eating. Don't be standing up. Try not to eat in your car. I know life is busy. It may not always work perfectly, but the more you can practice mindful eating, the better you are going to feel and the more natural that's going to be in your lifestyle. So try incorporating those tips into your daily routine, and you can gradually shift towards a diet that prioritizes whole food nutrition. And it's really going to minimize the consumption of the harmful ultra processed foods. Ultimately, this is going to promote better health and well-being in the long run. Now, there's a couple of things I did want to add on. When I was writing all of this out, I thought, I do want to talk a little bit about gluten, and I do want to talk a little bit about oils. So I'm just going to tag this on to the end and, just listen and with an open mind. You've probably heard a lot about gluten-free diets. What is the deal with it? Why are people doing that? I actually do promote a gluten-free diet with my clients, especially when they're just in the initial 6 weeks with me. I do believe that eliminating or at least reducing gluten will help lower inflammation, specifically with bloating, skin issues, and joints. So that's typically where people seem to struggle. And so I find, again, the rain barrel effect, the prevalence of gluten sensitivity and gluten allergies has been rising significantly in recent years. So it has prompted research into the reasons behind this phenomenon. So I want to just kind of go over some key factors that scientists have discovered. So some people do have a genetic predisposition for gluten sensitivity, allergy, what have you. So individuals with certain genetic markers, and I'm not even going to go into like all the boring science behind that, but they are more susceptible to gluten-related disorders such as celiac disease. That does happen to run in my mom's side of the family, and my mom's side of the family is very sensitive to gluten. Interesting, right? But there's also, let's talk about the changes in gluten consumption. So modern agricultural practices have led to changes in the structure and the composition of wheat gluten, which may make it more immunoreactive. Okay. So additionally, gluten is now found in a wide range of processed foods, leading to increased exposure. I remember when I first became aware about gluten and all that, and like it's in soy sauce. I mean, it's everywhere. So, you got to be detective with those labels. A gut microbiota imbalance, the disruption of the gut microbiome often caused by factors like antibiotic use. Okay. I think this is a big contribution to why my oldest son has such a sensitivity to gluten. Diet and stress may contribute to gluten intolerance by affecting the gut barrier function and immune response. All right, increased awareness and diagnosis. So improved awareness and diagnostic methods have led to more accurate identification of gluten-related disorders, resulting in a higher reported prevalence rates. So we kind of hear about it more because people are getting diagnosed more. Leaky gut syndrome. Have you heard of leaky gut syndrome? So some researchers hypothesize that the condition known as leaky gut syndrome, where the intestinal lining becomes more permeable, that this contributes to gluten sensitivity by allowing larger gluten molecules to enter the bloodstream and trigger immune responses. This I know absolutely. This is what was going on with my son. This has gone on with me and many members of our family, like I was mentioning. So it is a trigger in your immune responses, and a lot of people suffer with autoimmune syndromes. And if you do, I highly suggest that you try going off of gluten for 4 to 6 weeks and see if that improves any symptoms. Environmental factors. So environmental factors such as early childhood infections, maybe breastfeeding practices, or exposure to gluten at an early age may influence the development of a gluten intolerance. There's also a hygiene hypothesis that has suggested that decreased exposure to microbes in early childhood may lead to an overactive immune system, increasing the risk of autoimmune diseases like celiac disease. Now that is so interesting, because we all think we're doing great by keeping our kids super, super clean and keeping their environment super, super clean. Okay. There's epigenetic factors. So environmental factors can influence gene expression without changing the underlying DNA sequence. Epigenetic modifications may play a role in the development of gluten sensitivity by altering immune system function. Let's talk about stress and lifestyle factors. Stress and certain lifestyles like smoking or inadequate sleep, they could exacerbate symptoms of gluten sensitivity by affecting gut health and immune function. This one I really think is huge and cannot be overlooked. So I was watching recently, not that TikTok is like the end all be all of getting your news, but there is a lot of really good content on social media that you can find. And one of the findings was that people traveling to Europe and with a gluten sensitivity and that they don't have issues over there. So everyone naturally assumes that the gluten there, is non-existent, that their wheat quality is better and all of that. And this person was saying, actually, I think it's because when you're traveling, you're on vacation, you are not, your body, you are experiencing less stress. And so when your body is in a stressed state or a heightened stress state, then the gluten could have more of an effect on you than it would if you are less stressed. So that kind of makes sense to me. So it's just something to think about. Okay, so research into these factors, it's ongoing, and understanding the complex interplay between genetics, environment, lifestyle is really going to be crucial for developing effective prevention and treatment strategies for gluten-related disorders. And, like I said, all I can tell you is that I am like boots on the ground. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a doctor. I just know that I've worked with so many women over the last 5 years, and that the ones that go gluten-free feel so much better. I would say it's at least 50% of the women report back to me that they had less inflammation in their bodies by going gluten-free. So it's something to consider. The second thing I quickly wanted to talk about was oils. So we were talking earlier about best in class, for me, like if it comes to processed, ultra processed, whatever, I think you just can't go wrong with olive oil. And you want to look at on your bottles of olive oil, where does it come from? You want to see like one source. So was it from Italy? Was it from, it's just one region. Okay. You want to look at that first. Because if it's just like a blend, then it's a little more questionable. So I like that. And I also really like to look, I like avocado oil, and I prefer the Chosen brand. I'm not affiliated with this brand. This is just the one that I found best in class. And I avoid seed oils. I don't really use coconut oil that much, but I think that would be a fine one to use as well. But seed oils, also known as vegetable oils, they have received criticism because they have a high omega-6 fatty acid content. So like soybean, corn, sunflower, safflower oil, they are high in omega-6 fatty acids. While those are essential to health, excessive intake, though, especially when it's not balanced with omega-3 fatty acids, can promote inflammation in the body, potentially leading to various chronic diseases. The processing methods, that the extraction process for seed oils often involves high heat, solvents, and sometimes chemical additives. So these processes can lead to the oxidation of the oil, which that's like forming harmful compounds such as trans fats and lipid peroxides, which can be detrimental to your health. And then you've got, like I said, that imbalance of omega-3 to omega-6 ratio in the Western diet. So standard American diet, the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids is really skewed heavily towards the omega-6 due to widespread consumption of these seed oils. So I guarantee you 99% of the restaurants that you go to, 100, absolutely, with fast food as well, they're using seed oils. Okay. But this imbalance is really associated with increased inflammation, cardiovascular disease, and other health issues. Processing methods for these are really stripping away the beneficial nutrients that are present in seeds, which is, like they're stripping out the vitamins, the minerals, and the antioxidants, and they leave behind a product that just doesn't have any nutritional value. So a lot of different things to think about. Also, like GMO concerns, many seed oils, particularly soybean and corn, are derived from genetically modified crops. So while the safety of genetically modified organisms for consumption it's really a subject of debate, but some people really do prefer, me included, to avoid them due to concerns about potential health and environmental effects. Anyway, seed oils, they can be a source of essential fatty acids, but their excessive consumption, especially when they are highly processed and used in large quantities, they may contribute to health problems. So it's just something to think about. All right, well, that's what I had for you today. It was a lot of information, but I hope that really helps you understanding the quality of your food actually really matters. And the old school way of calories in and calories out, there's a lot more to it than that. So we can't simplify it just putting calories in our body and then exercising to burn calories. We have to really consider what types of food we're putting into our body. How is that affecting, our metabolism, our hormones, the energy that we feel? How do we sleep? How do our joints feel? What is our skin like? Quality matters. All right. Thanks for listening and have a great day. I'll see you back here next week.